Joe. I think when we're talking about ending austerity, it's very important to recognise that austerity has not been a failure. Austerity has been a success for those for whom it was meant to be a success: the bankers, the bondholders, big business. This year, while cuts are rained down upon working class people, while people are offered jobs with lesser conditions, lesser wages, the banks will be, the bondholders in the Irish state will be paid over €8 billion. Profits in the Irish economy for big business have increased at a rate higher than in any other European country, up 21% since 2007. Now profits are at a higher rate than they were before the onset of the financial and economic crisis. Of course, for working class people, the recovery that we have seen is simply a recovery of property prices, a recovery in terms of an increase in rents, up nearly 10% in Dublin over the last year, an increase in prices in Borgosh, in UPC, in ESB, in everything that people need to survive. And so the recovery that's offered by this government is not a recovery for ordinary people, it's not a recovery for the economy as a whole. Instead, it's a recovery for the 1% and for the elite. And of course, if austerity is a policy designed in the interests of the 1%, well then, when even economic growth recovers, it won't be taken away, it won't be reversed unless a major movement is built to demand an end to the property tax, an end to water charges, an end to programs like JobBridge. And we don't think that getting people like Joe Higgins or myself elected to the Dáil or to the European Parliament will change things overnight. It's about having representatives in there to be a voice of ordinary people, to stand up to the likes of José Manuel Barroso, the Commission President, to stand up to the likes of Enda Kenny, to stand up to the likes of Trichet and Mario Draghi, to represent the interests and the voice of ordinary people in there, but most importantly, to use those positions, as we did with the property tax, with the bin tax, to use them as platforms to organise people in campaigns of people power, mass opposition, struggle on the ground as the only means to actually defeat these measures. Just finally, on the question of young people, because young people are obviously particularly targeted by this government. There is a war against young people, against unemployed people, and against young unemployed people in particular. They're subject to economic attacks in the budgets, young people's projected income being cut, if you're on the dole, from €144 a week to €100 a week. Almost a one-third cut in your income, which no other sector of society experienced. €35 million of cuts in the budget, made up of cuts to various different aspects of youth funding, on top of the cuts to education, on top of the cuts to healthcare that affect all young people. And so they're particularly targeted economically, but also ideologically, with a war that says young people are unemployed because they have big flat-screen TVs, that says that young people are unemployed because they don't have enough motivation to go out to work, and that therefore we need so-called welfare activation schemes, for which this government is being clapped on the back by the European Commission for so-called activating most people. What welfare activation is about, it's about demonising those who are unemployed and then trying to exploit them in the labour market, using unemployment to drive down wages and conditions across the economy. JobBridge is at the forefront, it's at the cutting edge of that programme of the government. Despite all of the evidence, despite all of the stories to the contrary, the government is spinning and spinning and spinning about a success rate of over 60%. It's a lie. It's a lie that we in Scambridge have exposed time and time again. This scheme is a success only for big business that wants to exploit young people for nothing, and for the government that wants to be seen to do something about unemployment and taking down the figures on the live register. That's all the scheme is actually aimed to do. And so around Jobbridge, we have to build a movement. Scambridge is the start of that. It's linking up with other groups across the country in fighting this, and in particular in targeting the idea that's now being put across. Previously, Joan Burton always said that this is a voluntary scheme. You can do it if you want, you don't have to do it. Now they're saying if you don't do Jobbridge, if you don't volunteer to be exploited for another €50 a week, well then they'll cut your dole by a third. And so young people's dole will be cut from €100 to just over €70. Another massive attack. Just finally, we do have an alternative. There's a very real socialist alternative to the policies, to the madness of austerity that impacts on ordinary people. It starts with saying that people getting a real job takes priority over the bankers. That means not paying the debt. It means not paying the €8 billion in payments this year, imposing an immediate moratorium, and instead diverting that money to job creation. On that basis, 150,000 plus jobs could be created. Saying no to the madness of the Memorandum of Understanding and the ongoing supervision by the Troika, no to the austerity policies that are destroying the economy, and instead investment in job creation, a massive public investment program, refusing to pay the debt, reversing the cuts, investment in a job creation program, and taking the key sectors of the economy, taking the oil and gas wealth, taking transport, taking power, taking those into democratic public ownership, and on that basis developing democratically a plan to redevelop our economy in a sustainable way, both economically and environmentally. The European elections, together with the local elections, are a very important opportunity. They're an opportunity, firstly, to send a message. It's a message to Fine Gael. In particular, it's a message to the Labour Party, which has betrayed people absolutely and will be punished in May. But it's also a message to Barroso, to the European Central Bank, that people are willing to stand up and fight back. But also, it will make a difference. In the next 5 years, we can have major struggles around the question of water charges, around the question of unemployment, around the question of Jobbridge. And if we have people, genuine socialist representatives in there, it can make a real difference in terms of organising the kind of opposition, the kind of movement that we will need in the coming years to resist the onslaught of austerity that they continue to have prepared. I would encourage people to come up to the stall, get involved, sign up, help out with our campaign. It's only through a movement from below, including in the election, that we will be able to take on the onslaught of the big parties and the money that they have. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Paul. We'll just go to